Marcus Bull Thompson never expected that stopping for gas would change his entire life. But when a small voice kept calling out behind him, refusing to give up no matter how many times he tried to walk away, he knew something was desperately wrong. What she showed him in that abandoned building shattered every wall he'd ever built around his heart. This wasn't just a cry for help. It was a test of everything he thought he knew about himself. The autumn rain had finally stopped, leaving the streets of Detroit's east side slick and gleaming under the streetlights. Bull pulled his Harley into the gas station, his leather cut heavy with patches earned over 15 years with the Iron Knights MC. It had been a long ride from Toledo, and all he wanted was to fuel up and get home to his empty house. He was tired, bone-deep tired from a week of running security at a charity motorcycle rally. His back ached, his eyes burned, and the last thing he needed was complications. But as he replaced the gas cap, he heard it, a small voice, hesitant but persistent. "Mister?" Bull turned. Standing just beyond the pool of fluorescent light was a little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old. She had dark brown skin, her hair pulled into 2 small puffs on either side of her head, both coming loose. Her pink jacket was too thin for the weather, and her sneakers were held together with duct tape. What struck him most were her eyes, big, brown, and filled with a desperate hope that made his chest constrict. "Yeah," he said, his voice coming out rougher than intended. "Can you help me, please?" Every instinct screamed warning. He'd seen scams before. Kids used to distract while someone lifted your wallet. He'd learned long ago to trust no one. "Where's your parents, kid?" "My grandma needs help. Please, mister, she won't wake up right." Bull's jaw tightened. "There's a phone inside. Call 911. He turned back to his bike, swinging his leg over. The engine roared to life. "Please!" The desperation in her voice cut through the rumble. "They won't come. They never come to where we live. Please, you look strong. You can help her." He revved the engine, ready to pull away. This wasn't his problem. Getting involved meant questions, police, complications. He'd spent years learning to keep his head down, his circle small, his heart locked away. But as he began to pull forward, he saw her in his mirror. She was running after him, her small legs pumping, tears streaming down her face. "Please, please don't leave. She's going to die." Something in those words stopped him cold. His bike jerked to a halt. He sat there, engine idling, hands gripping the handlebars. "Just drive away. It's not your problem." But when he looked back again, the little girl had collapsed to her knees on the wet pavement, sobbing. With a curse that came from somewhere deep and painful, Bull killed the engine. He walked back to where she knelt, each step feeling heavier than the last. When he reached her, he crouched down, his knees protesting. "What's your name?" She looked up, hope blazing through her tears. "Destiny, Destiny Brown." "Where's your grandma, Destiny?" "Close, just 2 blocks. Please, I'll show you. She fell down this morning and she won't get up. She keeps saying words that don't make sense." Bull's mind raced. This could be a stroke, could be a setup, could be nothing. Why me? Why not ask someone else? Destiny wiped her nose with her sleeve. I did. I asked 6 people today. They all said no, or they just walked away. You're the 7th. Grandma always says 7 is God's number. She says God sends help when you need it most." Something about the innocence of that statement, the pure faith in a world that clearly hadn't been kind to this child, cracked something inside him. "All right," he heard himself say. "Show me." Her face transformed, fear giving way to fierce determination. She grabbed his hand with both of hers, her small fingers barely wrapping around 3 of his. They walked through streets Bull knew were dangerous even for him. Boarded-up houses, corner dealers who eyed him with suspicion, women working the corners who looked away. Destiny navigated it all with the confidence of someone who'd walked this path hundreds of times. She led him to a building that should have been condemned. Half the windows were broken, the front door hung crooked on its hinges. Graffiti covered every surface. "You live here?" She nodded, pulling him inside. The smell hit him first, mold, decay, and something worse. The stairs creaked ominously under his weight. On the 3rd floor, Destiny pulled him down a hallway to a door marked 3F. Inside, the apartment was tiny but heartbreakingly clean. Someone had tried hard to make it a home. Faded curtains, furniture that had seen better decades, but everything was tidy. Children's drawings covered one wall, held up with tape. "Grandma's in here." The bedroom was barely big enough for the twin bed it contained. On that bed lay an elderly black woman, maybe 70. Her gray hair spread across a flat pillow. Her eyes were open but unfocused, and when Bull approached, he could see the right side of her face was drooping. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" The woman's eyes found him, and he saw fear flash across them. Her mouth moved, but only garbled sounds came out. Her right arm lay motionless at her side. Bull knew enough to recognize a stroke. He'd seen it happen to his uncle years ago. Every minute mattered. He pulled out his phone, but there was no signal. Of course there wasn't. "Destiny, is there a phone here?" "They turned it off. Grandma couldn't pay the bill." Bull looked at the woman, at the child, at the desperate situation. He could call 911 from outside, let the professionals handle it. That was the smart play. But looking at Destiny's face, at the trust there, he knew he couldn't walk away. "I'm going to carry your grandma down to my bike. We're taking her to the hospital. You'll really help us?" "Yeah, kid, I'll really help." He moved to the bed, speaking softly to the woman. "Ma'am, my name is Marcus. I'm going to lift you now. I know I look scary, but I promise I'm going to get you help." When he slid his arms under her, he was shocked by how light she was. The woman whimpered, her left hand clutching weakly at his vest. "It's okay," he murmured. "I've got you." Getting down 3 flights of stairs with a stroke victim in his arms while a terrified child followed was the longest journey of Bull's life. Each step was careful, deliberate. The woman's breathing was rapid and shallow against his chest. Outside, he faced a new problem. How do you transport someone having a stroke on a motorcycle? "Destiny, I need you to run to that gas station and tell them to call 911. Tell them someone is having a stroke at this address." He gave her the street name. "But what if they don't come?" "They will. But I'm not waiting. I'm going to get your grandma to Detroit Receiving. It's only a mile from here. Can you meet us there?" "I don't know where that is." Bull made a decision that would have stunned anyone who knew him. "Fine. You're coming with us." He sat on the bike, the grandmother cradled in his lap like a child. Destiny climbed on behind him, her arms wrapping around his waist. "Hold on tight, both of you." The ride was a nightmare of careful balance and suppressed speed. He kept one arm locked around the grandmother, the other controlling the bike. She was fading. He could feel it. Her breathing grew more labored with each block. "Stay with me," he growled. "Your granddaughter needs you. You don't get to leave her." Behind him, Destiny was crying, her face pressed against his back. Detroit Receiving Hospital's emergency entrance had never looked so beautiful. Bull pulled right up to the doors, not caring about parking. He was off the bike in seconds, the grandmother in his arms. "Help! I need help!" His voice, trained to command attention in biker bars, boomed through the entrance. The automatic doors slid open. Destiny ran ahead, screaming, "My grandma! Please help my grandma!" A nurse looked up from the desk, her eyes widening. But she was a professional. Within seconds, a gurney appeared. "What happened?" a young doctor demanded as they transferred the woman. "Stroke. I found her about 20 minutes ago. Right side paralysis, slurred speech, facial drooping." "You did the right thing getting her here fast. Who's the child?" "Granddaughter, Destiny." They were moving now, the gurney rolling toward the interior. Destiny tried to follow, but a nurse gently held her back. "No, Grandma, don't leave me." The raw terror in that cry shattered something in Bull's chest. He dropped to one knee, pulling the sobbing child against him. "They're going to help her. They're the best. You did good, Destiny. You saved her." A social worker appeared, clipboard in hand, kind, eyes taking in the scene. "Hi, sweetie. I'm Mrs. Chen. Can you tell me your grandmother's name?" Destiny's voice was muffled against Bull's chest. "Dorothy Brown." "And where are your parents, honey?" "Dead. Car accident when I was 3. It's just me and Grandma." Mrs. Chen's expression softened with practiced sympathy. "I see. And sir, are you family?" Bull met her eyes. He could see the calculation there, the assessment. Big biker, scared kid, sick old woman. He knew how it looked. "No, the kid found me at a gas station, said her grandma needed help." "I see. Destiny, honey, you're going to need to come with me while the doctors help your grandmother." "No!" Destiny's grip on Bull tightened. "I want to stay with him. I'm sorry, sweetie, but that's not how it works. Bull felt the child trembling against him. He thought about her knocking on his window, about the 6 people who'd said no before him, about her faith that the 7th time would be different. He made eye contact with Mrs. Chen. I'll stay. If it helps her stay calm, I'll stay in the waiting room. The social worker studied him for a long moment. All right, but I'll need information from both of you. The next hours crawled by. Bull sat in an uncomfortable plastic chair, Destiny curled up beside him, sometimes sleeping, sometimes staring at the doors leading to the treatment area. Mrs. Chen had taken down all their information, made calls, asked careful questions. Bull learned more about Dorothy and Destiny's situation. The grandmother was 68, had raised Destiny since she was 3. They lived on a tiny disability check. Dorothy had diabetes, high blood pressure, and had been rationing her medications because she couldn't afford them all. She always made sure I ate first, Destiny said quietly, even when there wasn't much. She'd say she wasn't hungry, but I knew she was. Bull's throat tightened. This was love. Pure, sacrificial love. Around 2 a.m., a doctor finally emerged. Bull gently woke Destiny. The doctor crouched down. Your grandma's very sick, Destiny. She had what we call a stroke, but we got medicine into her just in time. She's going to need to stay in the hospital for a while, and she'll need lots of therapy, but she should recover. Can I see her? Tomorrow, when she's more awake. Right now she needs rest. Mrs. Chen reappeared. Destiny, we need to find you a place to stay tonight. Can I stay here? Hospital policy, sweetie, but we have a nice foster home. No, Destiny grabbed Bull's arm. Can I stay with him, please? Mrs. Chen looked uncomfortable. That's not possible, honey. Mr. Thompson isn't an approved foster parent. We have procedures. I don't care about procedures. He helped us. He didn't have to, but he did. Please don't take me away. Bull felt something crack inside his chest. This child had already lost so much. Her parents, now her grandmother, was fighting for her life, and they wanted to put her with strangers? What if I went through the process? The words came out before he could stop them. To be approved? Mrs. Chen blinked. That takes time. Background checks, home visits, classes. How long? If we expedite it, maybe a few weeks. But in the meantime, can she stay with someone she knows? A family friend? Because I just became her family friend. Mrs. Chen studied him. You understand you'd be subject to immediate investigation, home checks, interviews? I understand, she sighed. This is highly irregular. But given the circumstances and the fact that you potentially saved Dorothy's life, I can arrange for emergency temporary custody, 24 hours at a time, renewable while we process the paperwork. But Mr. Thompson, if anything seems off, if there are any concerns, there won't be. That night, Bull brought Destiny to his house. She walked through the door of his small, neat home, taking in the motorcycle posters, the leather furniture, the complete absence of anything child-friendly. You really live alone? She asked. Yeah. Aren't you lonely? The question hit him like a punch. He'd spent years convincing himself he preferred solitude, that he didn't need anyone. Sometimes, he admitted. That night, Destiny slept in his guest room, wrapped in every blanket he owned. Bull lay awake in his own bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell he'd gotten himself into. But when he heard her crying softly in the night, he went to her, sat on the edge of the bed, and when she crawled into his lap seeking comfort, he held her and whispered that everything would be okay. And in that moment, something he'd thought was dead inside him flickered back to life. The weeks that followed were chaos. Bull went through every check, every interview, every class. His club brothers thought he'd lost his mind. His lifestyle was examined, questioned, judged. But every day he visited Dorothy in the hospital with Destiny, watched the old woman slowly regain her strength, her speech, her hope. Why are you doing this? Dorothy asked him one day, her words still slightly slurred but improving. You don't know us. Bull looked at Destiny, coloring in the corner of the hospital room. I was 7 years old when my mom died, he said quietly. My dad couldn't handle it. He dropped me at my aunt's and never came back. My aunt did her best, but she had 4 kids of her own. I was just a burden. I grew up feeling like nobody wanted me, like I was worth nothing. He paused, his voice rough. That little girl knocked on my window and saw something in me nobody else sees. She thought I could help. She believed in me, and I'll be damned if I let her down." Dorothy reached out with her good hand gripping his. "You're a good man, Marcus Thompson." "I'm trying to be." 3 months later, Bull stood in family court. His lawyer beside him, Destiny in a new dress holding his hand, Dorothy in a wheelchair, but smiling. The judge looked at the thick file before her. "Mr. Thompson, you've passed every background check, completed all required classes, and received glowing recommendations from Ms. Destiny's social worker. The question is simple. Are you prepared to be this child's guardian?" Bull looked down at Destiny. She smiled up at him, trustingly, completely. "Yes, Your Honor, I am. And you understand this isn't temporary. This is a commitment until she turns 18? "I understand. But, Your Honor, if I could speak freely." The judge nodded. "This isn't a burden. This isn't charity. This little girl saved my life just as much as I saved her grandmother's. She reminded me that being strong doesn't mean being alone, that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone in. I'm asking for the privilege of being her guardian." The judge's stern expression softened. "Petition granted. Congratulations, Mr. Thompson." Destiny threw her arms around his neck, and Bull felt tears stream down his face. He didn't care who saw. That night, in the house that was now legally both of theirs, with Dorothy settled in the converted downstairs bedroom they'd prepared for her recovery, Destiny climbed into Bull's lap. "You know what, Marcus?" "What, kiddo?" "Grandma was right. 7 is God's number. You were the 7th person I asked." Bull pulled her close, his voice thick. "Then I'm glad I was number 7. "Me too," she whispered. "I love you." Those 3 words nearly broke him. "I love you too, Destiny. So much." Later, after Destiny was asleep, Bull stood on his porch. His club brothers pulled up, bikes rumbling in the quiet night. "You really did it," Tommy said, shaking his head in wonder. "Bull Thompson, family man." "Yeah, I really did. You know your life is never going to be the same, right?" Bull looked back at his house, now filled with laughter and pink backpacks and the sound of someone who needed him. "I'm counting on it." He'd spent 15 years building walls, convinced that strength meant standing alone, that needing nothing meant nothing could hurt him. It took a desperate 7-year-old girl with duct-taped shoes and unshakable faith to show him the truth. Real strength was opening your heart even when you were terrified. Real courage was letting someone matter. Real family wasn't about blood. It was about choosing each other every single day. That night before he went to bed, Bull looked in on Destiny one last time. She was sleeping peacefully, clutching a stuffed bear his club had bought her, safe and warm and loved. He thought about the man he'd been 3 months ago, alone, closed off, convinced he was better off that way. That man was gone. In his place was someone better, someone who'd been saved by being asked to save someone else. "Thank you," he whispered to the sleeping child. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Because sometimes the smallest voice carries the loudest message. Sometimes a desperate plea in a gas station parking lot is the beginning of everything. And sometimes the person you save ends up saving you right back. They weren't strangers anymore. They were family, and family meant everything. If this story touched your heart, please share it. Let us know where you're watching from. We love hearing how these stories reach people around the world.